Hey everybody, it's Irene with BrainStormAcres, and as you can see, I'm in the greenhouse. Now, it's been a really long time since we've really done much in the greenhouse. I brought you with me, oh gosh, a while ago. I couldn't even tell you how long ago. I'd have to look back at the videos. When I started cleaning out the tomatoes and other stuff in here. And as you can see, I haven't totally finished it yet. I beat it back a bunch more, but yeah, I got other things going on. So, I do have a bunch of these pots cleaned out though. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pots are 100% ready to go. Now, I had something funny happen today. I had a bag of potting soil in here, and if you followed us before, you know that when we reuse a pot of potting soil, we always add a little bit more to the top of it, and sometimes we'll add fertilizer and stuff like that to sort of refresh it, because obviously it's had nutrition taken out of it by the previous plants. Well, I topped up a couple of the things, and I thought maybe I'll put a little bit more. And then I went, I'll just bring in a bag from outside, because I've got a whole stack up sitting there. So anyway, trouble. They're frozen. So I managed to, it's like carrying a cement block and a half, this gigantic thing. So I managed to get it in the door, and I left it on the floor. So probably tomorrow or the next day, that will be usable if I decide I need to top off anything else, like when I clean some of the other pots. But today, what I'm going to be doing is planting just a couple of things in here that I know are cold hardy, that will do fine in here as a start, and that will do fine for the rest of the winter. Now, the other day, I started some seeds in the house, and I am happy to say they are starting to come up. I've got my little chart. I'm keeping track of what's up already. I'll be keeping track carefully of what doesn't come up, in case that happens. And I will then be replanting if that happens, because I do not want to wind up with, 30 broccoli plants and 20 lettuce plants and things like that. That's too much. We did that the last couple of years, and we decided that was really silly, that we would enjoy ourselves more if we had a nice, steady, but not overwhelming supply. Now, I would have liked to have done this a little earlier, but to be honest, we had an event to go to for my business, and trying to arrange for somebody to come here during the winter when the roads are a giant mud pit and half the time you can't get here just was not going to be a good choice. We do have irrigation in here. You'll see there's pipes and stuff. Those cannot be run in the wintertime, because, well, we've most of the time been down around 30 for this last week, but the other morning I woke up and it was 17, which means it was probably really close to 17 in here. Now, it might be a little bit warmer. It could have been 25, but that is still too cold for the water system. So I'll be hand watering these on a daily basis. I'll be keeping good track of everything. I have containers of water over here that are from rain harvesting, and that's what I'll be using. I'm not using any of the in-ground systems right now, because some of them, like the ones in the house, obviously are fine in this kind of weather, but some of the other ones in the yard were never intended for use once it really gets down cold. And our ground is pretty frozen someplace, except where it's mud. So what I'm going to do today is plant just a couple of things. I brought in a couple of seeds here, and we're going to talk a little bit about what I'm planting. Now, first of all of these pots here had been used for tomatoes. These 4 here have been used for tomatoes. So I know that if I plant something tomatoes are in the nightshade family. I know that if I plant something that's not in the nightshade family, I'm very unlikely to have disease problems. So the first thing I'm going to plant is kohlrabi, which is in the brassica family, which is cabbage. I'm going to put this little sign on there. And these are fairly new seeds, because we love this particular variety. It's called Tarek. It's from Johnny's Select Seeds. You'll notice as I go along that probably most of the time, the vast majority of the time, especially for vegetables, the only two companies I'm buying from are Johnny Select Seeds and Haas Tools. Now, why is that? Well, to be honest, I'm really pleased with the quality of their stuff. I have bought stuff from other places before. Some of it was awesome. Some of it was not so awesome. Some of it had zero germination. And, you know, they can sit there and give you the $3 or the $5 or whatever it was back for a refund. But, you know, that doesn't save your season. And, yeah, that's not the same as having had a season for that vegetable. Now, Tarek Kohlrabi says plant it... planted about, let's see, they say you can transplant it. I don't. I don't. I 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch deep, 15 seeds per foot, thin to 4 inches apart. So what I am actually going to do is I'm going to plant these about 3 inches apart, and I'm going to fill the entire bucket with them. And then as they grow, I'll simply be harvesting out individual kohlrabis. Usually for the two of us, because we're only feeding 2 people, a kohlrabi salad, depending on how large they are, will either be 1 or 2 kohlrabis. So, if I do what I'm talking about, it makes perfect sense. So, I'm going to make dots, which help me space things out, just using my finger. I've been doing this forever. It works really well for me. And it helps me to keep the stuff even without thinking about it, to be honest. And then when I come in one row, I'll be putting them kind of in between. And I can only get a couple in the center. And I'm not trying to make this perfect. Close enough? So I wind up with like 5 in the center and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 around the outside. Okay, 16 total. Not bad. That's a fair amount of kohlrabi. So, kohlrabi, being a brassica, has these tiny little round seeds. It's hard to see them. I don't want to spill them on the floor. But they're just, you know, about 1/16 of an inch in diameter. In general, cabbage plants, cabbage seeds are about that size. I'm only going to put 1 seed in each of these holes because these are new seeds and they have a germination rate of 99%. So I don't need to double up. If you screw up and accidentally get 2 seeds in, it will not be the end of the world, but when you go to get your kohlrabi out, you'll have to cut it instead of pulling it because you'll damage the other plant. I have done that before successfully. Not the damaging part, the cutting part. It works, and I'm okay with that, but trying to avoid that kind of excitement. I can see a bug here. Let me see what kind of bug you are. Okay. You are not a good bug, so you're a dead bug. It cracks me up that we have bugs right now. It's the swing in temperature cycles. That was a little thing that looks sort of aphid-like, and I'm like, not risking that. Don't know what it was for real. But the rule is, don't be a bug I can't identify. Because that's the end of you. So I'm just going to fluff these over the individual holes that I made, which have their little seeds in them. And if you'll recall, that we're planting them really shallow. It's only 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch deep. These are about 1/2 inch. So I'm not worrying about it too much. They should be fine. And I will spray that with water. Now, what else am I planting? If you don't know anything about kohlrabis, you should really look them up. They're cool. They look like an alien. They're a ball about, I usually harvest them about that big. And you can harvest them smaller. My mother actually talked about liking them cooked. I think we tried cooking them maybe once. We like them raw. So why waste the fuel to cook something when you really like it raw? I figure you're losing some nutrition and all that other kind of stuff too. So, you know. Okay, next beastie on the list is seaside spinach. Now, these are older seeds. I don't know what kind of success rate we're going to have, but I don't want to leave them there any longer. So I am going to use them up. And if I don't get a decent germination, I will plant new ones. They say that you should plant these 1/2 inch deep in rows 12 to 18 inches apart. Now that assumes that you're letting them get to full size. We eat spinach as babies, and we tend to harvest, excuse me, we tend to harvest individual leaves. Now, this is one of the reasons I would have normally put a little extra soil on top. See all the roots? I let those just rot in here, but it does make it a little harder when you're planting to have these little lumpy roots. I took out anything big, but it is nicer to have it smoother. It's not going to be the end of the world. We'll be fine. In this case, I'm just literally going around kind of in a circle, and I'm going to drizzle these around because I don't expect a really high rate of germination. If I, for some reason, get it, I will thin them out. So I've gone around a circle, kind of dusted back over that, and I'll put just a couple in the center because I don't want to waste space. And I'm giving 2 seeds or 2 or 3 seeds in each hole there. Okay, that's all there is to it. I normally would be very careful about spacing these out, but these are quite old. These are from 2016. I generally have had very good germination rates no matter what. The original germination rate on this was 95%. They have been stored properly, so we'll see. Now, the last batch here is 2 different kinds of radishes. Now, why on earth would I plant 2 different kinds of radishes? Well, because we're getting variety. I don't eat radishes. My husband loves them, and I grow the radishes for him. No sin in that. The only sin I see is when people say, I like kale, and then you must all eat kale even if you hate kale. Okay, kids. The reason that you want to grow a garden is because it produces wonderful, amazing vegetables or fruit, and it does drop your overhead. But I have actually seen a couple of YouTubers who were forcing, and we're not talking about forcing children, we're talking about forcing grown adults to eat vegetables they hated, not because they didn't like other vegetables, but because they wanted to use, there was one root that I missed, obviously. They wanted to use this particular type of vegetable that they liked. I grow vegetables that only Henry eats. I don't have a problem with that. There are things that I'm the only one in the house that eats. That's okay too. Not in the vegetable department, but in the everything else department. Let's see, I thought I had a seaside. I must have actually managed to leave that on the kitchen table. I had a label that said seaside. Well, I'll know that that's the only guy that's not labeled and fix that later. Okay, this is Roxanne. These are 2 of our favorites. Well, I wouldn't say favorites. We've tried a bunch of them. Henry's very favorite, if he had to choose one variety in the word, would be Sora, S-O-R-A, by Johnny Select Seeds. These are Roxanne radishes. Now, these are not exotic radishes. All of these are your basic red round radishes that you get at the grocery store. These should be planted 1/4 inch deep and 1 inch apart. I'm going to plant them about 2 inches apart because I know that for my growing conditions, that's a really good plan. There's also some, this is one of the reasons I don't care for using wooden markers for seeds. This is the bottom of an old wooden marker. Now, I can break it up now. It's finally getting to the crunchy part where it's actually not too much of a problem. But they kind of hang around. My plastic ones sort of disintegrate almost to nothing. I would rather not use plastic, but I also don't like, I've had problems a couple of times with the wooden ones actually developing mold on them. And I actually did a special show a number of years ago because I wound up with mold in my seed starting trays because I had run out of all kinds of stakes that I could use for marking. And I simply used some craft popsicle sticks, and they developed the worst case of mold you've ever seen. It was terrible. And what I did here was I just did approximately half of this container in rock sand. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the other half here in Crunchy King, which is another variety of ordinary red round radish. Now, I shouldn't say ordinary because they have their different flavors, and I had written it all down at some point. Honestly, I've forgotten some of it now. But Henry enjoys different flavors in his radishes. Now, what I just did was I covered up all the seeds so that when I'm planting the Crunchy King, I don't make a mistake and, you know, get them all mixed up. So this side is Crunchy King, and the other side is Roxanne. Now, I frequently will do that with radishes. Sometimes I'll do it with carrots too, especially, oh, hiccup. Sometimes I'll do that with carrots too, especially if I have a situation where I'm short on seeds and I'm finishing up old seeds. I'm going to be doing a bunch of that this year because I have some seeds that produce okay carrots and we like them, but not enough to grow them again. We're really kind of picky and don't see a reason to grow things that are just okay. We prefer to grow things that are really stellar. On the other hand, we also don't see a reason to waste seeds, so there's that part. I do donate some of my seeds sometimes to the garden club and stuff like that. If there's something that we really just can't make work on our property, that doesn't mean it can't be grown just down the road somewhere in somebody's yard that has different conditions. So I've just done the same thing here. I made the holes as part of that original thing, and I'm just covering up all the little seeds. I'll tap them down. Now, why do I pat them down? I pat them down because the seeds will germinate better if they get good soil contact. And tapping them down also tends to firm the soil over the seeds a little bit. We're not crashing it, we're just tapping it down. And then when I water it, it's less likely to have problems with seeds getting washed around. There's very few things more annoying than when your seeds all get washed to one side. Now, I need to actually move some of this stuff later because it's going to bug me. But I'm going to ignore that today. This is full of just plain water. It came from the water collection barrels that I have over there. And all I'm going to do is pump this up. I'm going to refill it before I take it to the house because I'm actually using rainwater to water my seeds in the house. Now, why would I do that? Well, our water here that comes from the ground is extremely hard. It has a very high mineral content. And if we use water from the ground to water the plants, which we obviously do, I mean, we have to in the garden, we don't get enough rainwater collection to be able to skip that part. But if we use it on the seedlings, there's a tendency for the seed trays to build up mineral deposits, and it's just one less thing I'd rather deal with. This soil that I've got here right now is already damp. It is not wet, but it is damp. So I'm soaking this good with a sprayer. This is just a cheapy sprayer that I got at Harbor Freight. I'm actually keeping track to see how long this one survives. I normally wait till they're on sale, and I'll buy like 2 of them. This one was first used April 1st, 2002. So by having that written on there, I will have a clue as to how long it lasts. They usually have, I don't know, I think these have a year warranty. I don't know. I wouldn't bother. I'm sorry, for $6, I'm not driving, yeah. think it's 55 miles down there. I don't think so. Even if it's 45, it's still not worth it. I'd use that much gas to get down there. So I'm just spraying that. I'm going to go over them a couple of times. And that will be enough to get it started. I will be back out here tomorrow morning. I will do the same thing at least twice tomorrow. I may even break down and use the sprayer that I have over there. Probably not. I'll probably just refill this because even though it takes a smidge longer, the purpose of this whole process is to make sure I'm not disturbing the seeds, yet I'm adding enough moisture. And we rush too much in our lives as is, taking the time to water the flowers or the seeds in this case that will grow up to be plants that we will eat can be a lovely little tiny break. And under normal circumstances, I wouldn't be talking to anybody. I would probably be listening to tunes. So good tunes, and it's warm in here. I am sweating. Henry says, "Do you need a coat?" I said, "No, I'm going to be in the greenhouse." He's like, "Oh, yeah." Usually a lot of times what I do is even in the middle of the winter, you'll see me out here in a t-shirt because it's too warm. And yeah. So, as I said, these were not dry to start with. So, just adding a little bit more. I'm watching how the water is responding on the top in terms of soaking in, because I want to get some good moisture in here. This will not have as quick as germination as it would in a couple of months, but we are past the time frame when the daytime is too short. Where we live, and you can find this out online, there are websites that will tell you your day length where you are, and your day length depends on your latitude. And if you don't remember what latitude is from elementary school, when you're looking at the globe, there's lines that go this way and there's lines that go this way. And if you leaned a ladder against the side of the world, the lines that go this way would be the latitude. So, can you tell I teach classes occasionally? I'm always looking for ways to remember that, because I always had trouble remembering latitude versus longitude when I was a kid. And when I realized that it's just the rungs of the ladder, I'm like, I can remember that. So, yep, that's what we do, is we try to make it simple so you can remember. But at some point during the spring, depending on where you are on that globe, your day length would be long enough to make your plants happy. And the day for us is January 15th. Some places it will be considerably later. But the day length has to be more than, I think it's 10 hours, for the plants to be happy, to be able to function. And the longer it gets, you'll see them really start to kick in, to an extent. I mean, you know, when they start roasting to death, that's kind of the end of that one too. But we now have 3 pots. We have seaside spinach, we have crunchy radishes, we have Roxanne radishes, and we have Tarek. And when I go back in the house, I'll have to find my others, because I very carefully wrote out a label for seaside, and I left it on the kitchen table. Always a good plan. I'll also be taking the old plastic labels in here. I know people don't like plastic, but I can normally get at least 2 years out of these. I had been buying them at the local hydroponics store. They didn't always have them in. And one time I'd gone down, they didn't have them in. We were obviously running errands. And I said, the heck with this. I'm done with this. I need to have labels. The ones at the big box stores were ridiculously expensive, because they were selling you like a dozen at a time, and I was planting like spring flowers, and I needed, 50 of them. I didn't want to spend $10 for 12, and then have to spend another. I'm like, yeah, so they last 3 years instead of 2. Okay, I can live with the 2-year thing. It feels good to be growing something again, especially after the last time I went grocery shopping and looked at that really, truly dreadful vegetables that they wanted to charge me good money for. I was not excited. So that was the final straw that got me off the sofa Actually, I haven't been on the sofa. I've been working. But out of the studio to come work up here and get this stuff set. Okay, time for me to go back in the house. I'm going to take my water from the rain barrels, take it inside so I can top up my seedlings again tonight. And I hope you find this interesting. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. We actually do read and answer questions. And yeah, until next time, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell because we're going to be doing tons more. It won't be that many months before this greenhouse is full. It'll be full of veggies, and it'll be full of seedlings to go out in the garden. Planning to plant a lot of flowers again this year and do some other interesting experiments like we always do. So until next time, bye. Oh, and don't forget, keep on brainstorming because obviously we do.